Hi everyone, it's Andrea with the Hippie Art Studio. Today I'm showing you a scrapbooking process video, if you want to call it that. I wanted to make monthly dividers in my 8.5 by 11 album this year. So I have this hand-drawn calendar that I made at the end of 2014 for this year that I haven't used at all. So I decided to photocopy those monthly pages that I had drawn up, and I'm going to attach it to the file folder. I want to just point out that I wanted the tab, so that was what that pointing thing was. I already have the January one prepped here. And I just trimmed it a little bit closer because you could see the photocopy lines there as I showed you with that February one. You could easily do this with any kind of monthly calendar. You could draw one, you could use Word to make one, or you could use one out of a planner like that. So I hole punched this already so that it would fit in the rings the way I wanted it to. And I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I chose this distress stain. I wanted to see how the colors worked on the file folder, because sometimes different papers will change how they react and how they look. So I'm using washi tape to create kind of a border around the file folder so that you'll still see that craft on the outside. And the washi tape also helps hold the file folder down as I play with some mixed media and wet materials. So I'm going to just apply this distress stain, which I believe is pumice stone, all over my background. And I thought that would be fantastic, but I didn't like how the lines ended up looking. And my stain dauber thing, whatever you want to call it, is not cooperating, so I have to like beat it on the file folder frequently. So I pulled out some gesso and I used a popsicle stick that I used to stir the gesso with, just to kind of roughly apply that onto the distress stained background to tone it down a little bit and get rid of some of those lines, which ends up not being an issue at all later, but nonetheless. So while I'm doing this, I really have no idea where I'm going to take this, but I try and kind of smear that gesso with some water and end up just going with a baby wipe, because I want to still see the distress stain that's in the background. I just didn't want it to be as dark as it was. So now it's too light, go figure. So I try to put distress stain on my paintbrush, and that really doesn't work. And then I try to just smear it with the paintbrush, and it's still way too light. So I grab some packaging to kind of do the packaging splatters, which I decided was probably the best option. So I apply that across the page, and now I am going to kind of go down a rabbit hole. I was watching a YouTube video about art journaling, and she made this really cool background with string that she taped down and then applied paint or ink or whatever and pretty much did a print. So I decided that would be really fun to do on this page. So I'll edit most of this out, the laying down and taping the string, so you don't have to watch it. But I made up a design using the string, and I used washi tape. I highly recommend you not use washi tape for this. So my string's down, and I grabbed my Heidi Swap Color Shine in, I think it's Primrose and her Silver. And of course they're clogged and they don't want to work, so I had to go clean them. And so I just kind of spritzed around, and that was cool. And that prompts me to want to do like 27 more. So I dabbed it with the paper towel just to dry it up kind of quickly. And so I'm trying to get the file folder out without messing up the string. And there you see the finished piece, and I slide another piece of paper under the strings so that I can do another one. And this time I am going to use just the gray. And then I decided to do another one. And I have to adjust the strings every time to make sure they're down tight. I just tuck them back under the washi. And it was Gulf Sprite. I can't pronounce her last name, so I'm just going to call her Gulf Sprite because that's what her YouTube username thing is. And I'll link that video down below. So this one I did the silver and the pink, and then I did a print off of that. And I dabbed it with the paper towel again just to dry it up quickly because it's slowly becoming quite a pile on my table. And I'm only going to do one more, I promise. So this time I'm going to do acrylic paint in the yellow and the green and the blue color scheme that I used for my inspired kit that I made, that was inspired by the Hip Kit Club's May 2015 kit that they came out with. And this was not easy, and I apologize for the shaking. This was not an easy task to not bump the table and move the camera and all that. I tried to stabilize the video, but it doesn't seem to have worked very well, so I apologize. So after I've got the yellow and the green paint on, I clean my brayer and I apply the distress stain directly to the brayer. And do one roll on the file folder and then apply it to the background. Because I didn't want it to be blobby. I wanted it to be kind of actually rolled on there. And that's the finished piece. And then I decided to just ink the edges with the distress stain to get more of that blue on there. Turquoisey, tealy blue color. So then these are all the ones I made. And they all end up getting used throughout the month-ish that I used the kit that I made. I'll link my original kit video down below so you can see the other products I pulled that I was inspired to put together in a kit from the Hip Kit Club. So now I'm just taking the washi tape off to reveal the edges of the paper, the file folder, and I'm just putting them in a pile because I fully intend to use those little pieces at some point. So that's how it looks with the washi tape removed, and I like the rough edges. And I'm just figuring out my placement of the calendar. And yes, I'm aware that it says 2014, and I will end up fixing that. Like I said, I made this calendar back in 2014, and I did January and February both saying 2014 because I'm an idiot. So they'll get covered up and fixed. So that's that scrap washi that I had used to cover the edges. So it's got a little bit of the distress stain and paint and all that on it, which is perfectly fine with me. These are some of the supplies I'm going to be using to finish this up. I'm just showing you the alpha stickers and sticker sheets and some enamel dots, some jelly bean soup hexies. So this is off of one of those letter sticker sheets. It's just the little piece of border I still had left. And I used the washi tape to cover up that 2014 because my 2015 stickers don't quite cover it. So I was hoping the washi tape would help kind of mask it, and it works pretty good. So yeah, this was a really fun project. I really like having like a monthly review type of page in my albums, so that any pictures that don't have a bigger story, like maybe a picture of lunch or something like that, they can always get thrown onto my monthly review. So I decided to spritz some Avery hole reinforcers with the Heidi Swap Color Shine so that they can go on those holes there. And I'm messing with that string because I'm not sure if I'm done with it or if I'm going to do something else with it. These are some of the homemade embellishments that I made for my kit, and I'm just going to layer that piece. It says cherish each day, and I believe it was from a Heidi Swap stamp set, and I just used gold embossing powder on it. And I mess with these purple little triangle banner pieces and really try and get them to work, but they end up not making it on the page. So I'm just seeing if those Simple Stories Snap Family Collection colors work, and I think they do, and I think the Jelly Bean Hexies do. And I've got some Heidi Swap gold, I think they're chipboard stickers. And then I pulled this index card that I made for Index Card a Day. I just used some Distress Stain to make the lines there, and then I stitched using an Amy Tangerine stitching stencil and some gold thread, and then I just cut those out. And I spared you the cutting because it took me a while. And I've moved those banner pieces again. I'm really trying, but they just don't look right. So I decided to tuck that little circle up by the title there, by the January, and I just stamped that little circle with a Heidi Swap stamp as well. I'm using some of that washi tape to tape down the stitching so that hopefully it won't unravel over time. And I thought I cut out, okay, so I just kind of fussy cut that smile out. See, now it's all better. And I'm going to use where I put the washi tape to put my adhesive down on. And I tuck that under the cherish each day. I have to move that little red border strip so that you can actually see it, because otherwise the smile covered the whole thing up. Now it kind of sticks out from the smile. It kind of continues that line of red too. So now I'm just going over and making sure I've got, you know, red, and then another point of red, and another point of red, and another point of blue, and so forth. I'm going to put those hole reinforcers on now because they're dry. And I put them on the back. You know, I'm not very smart sometimes because I end up covering the back for my monthly review with my photos and decorations and such. But nonetheless, so I trimmed off the edge there. And now I'm going to use these awesome gold foil, like chipboard Heidi Swap pieces. They are awesome. And that little noted thing popped up, so I had to glue that back down. I'm just trying to decide where I'm going to put these. I really liked those triangles, and so I end up putting them up by the January. And the gold on these is just, I don't know if you want to call it shiny or what, but it's just a bit different than the stitching that is on my handmade embellishments, as well as the embossed piece down there. So I kind of try and scatter them throughout as well. I cut one of those jelly bean hex these in half so that I can have a tab that says January. Or Jan. Not that you wouldn't know this was January because it's like in the front of the book, but nonetheless, consistency throughout the book, kind of. And I'm sorry, my head gets in the way, but I'm trying to get those letter stickers lined up so they won't drive my OCD crazy that they're not straight later. I'm just showing you that those stickers were from Amy Tangerine. They're like vellum. They're really cool. They're like vellum little tiles. And I'm going to pull out the Nap Family piece of sticker sheet again. But those colors just don't work. And I started in 2015 and I was like, what are you doing, idiot? The whole book is about 2015 and you already have 2015 right there. So obviously you don't need it on the tab. So I go through this pack and I'm trying to see what else I can use. I grab this little word strip that says, "Together we make a family," I believe. And I'm like, well, I'll put it there. No, I'll put it here. It gets moved around. So I didn't know what I was going to do with the boxes at the time I was making this page, but that ends up being like key events throughout the month. So I didn't really want to cover the squares, and then I'm like, I'll just cover the squares, it's fine. So I'm just adding some little pops here and there with that sticker sheet and the colors that I've already used on the page. Some blues, some reds, and some of that crafty tan color. That's like a little piece of washi, strippy thing that they've got on the sheet. They've got several of them in that pack. So just made a little cluster there. And there's no photos on this page, so I'm really just trying to draw your eye through the calendar. And I add some enamel dots, because what page is complete without some enamel dots? I always go overboard on enamel dots. I like them. I feel they complete most little clusters and groupings of embellishments. They kind of tie it all in together. So there you go. It is done. Here is another full page view with my journaling in there, so you can kind of see how our month went. And then there are some close-ups up ahead, so thanks for watching. And come back for part 2 where I decorate the other side with the actual photos. Bye!